今日は大学からアメリカに実際に留学して大学院を卒業した涼介とトニーがですね、実体験に基づいた留学をして人生を変える7つの秘訣をオフレコトークで今日もやっていきたいと思います。
よろしくお願いします。
今日もベイン東京出身の涼介と
BCG シカゴ出身のトニーでお届けします。今回は留学の話になるので全編英語にしていきたいと思います。
Alright, let's get started then.
Alright. I think the first thing is that when you decide that you're going to study abroad in the US, you have to come in with the mindset that you're going to try to stay in the US and you're going to optimize for that from day zero. What I mean by that is if you optimize your actions for that one goal, then you'll have the best shot at staying in the US or at being successful in the US. But it's the same set of actions that's going to help set you up for success for if you want to return to your home country, whether it be Japan or Korea.
I totally agree. Optimizing for staying in the US is like so much better that it elevates your level basically because the amount of preparation and effort that you have to put in to stay in the US is exponentially higher than just going back to your country. So if you actually work on all that, your level of every aspect as a professional from year one after graduation, you're at a so much higher level than if you didn't try to do that.
And it's kind of ironic and funny, but you know how the Trump administration is getting a lot of flack for their restrictive immigration policies and the changes that they're trying to do. But if you look at how the immigration policy is structured and how the visa program is structured, it makes sure that, or at least it's designed to keep their most valuable students in the country, right? So if you follow the rules, actually, and you've optimized for that, you actually become a valuable person as a result. I wish that someone had told me when I was a freshman that you can only have 1 year of OPT, which is not a visa, but like an extension of your F1 visa that allows you to work in the US after graduation. You only get 1 year of it unless you're in a set of particular majors like STEM. Yeah. And I didn't know that. So, I realized when it was too late for me to change my major.
What did you major in again?
Political science.
Totally not STEM. Not STEM.
Nope.
Not even close.
I had no hope.
My undergrad, I did information system management. My master's I got from USC, which is Master in Finance. But technically speaking, it was in master's in quantitative finance. So it was a STEM degree.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So I actually had like 2 STEM extensions from undergrad to and master's. So I could have like stayed 6 years in total. The amount of exposure, amount of options you have, it's just like game changing. And that's one of the reasons why U.S. company does not prefer an international student.
Right.
Because after investing all that training, everything, resource to you, you might have to leave after 1 year.
And this is why recruiting is like 20 times harder for international students than for domestic students, because the companies really need to want to hire you for them to give you an offer, right? You have to be meaningfully better than them. And I tell this to my co-highs all the time. It's like, hey, like you better be 10 times better than your friends. Yeah. Otherwise, there's no reason for anyone to hire you. So I was like, okay, you're telling me that I have to apply to the most popular and hardest companies in this country, and I have to be 10 times better than my friends to be able to get an offer? I was like, I should have started when I was a freshman. Yeah. This grind starts like these days. I heard that it starts from high school. I literally had my JP Morgan colleague get a LinkedIn DM from a high school sophomore asking for a coffee chat.
Wow. Right. That's crazy.
And he's like, I'm passionate about a career in finance and M&A. And he's like, we can find like 20 minutes to chat or something. I'm like, this is insane.
That is insane.
Like that's how much grind that American kids put in. Yeah. And you're expected to be better than that.
I think I want to touch on how important it is to work in the US and how that affects your professional career in the long run too.
Like your mindset?
Your mindset, yeah. So I worked at an IT consulting firm for 2 years after graduating undergrad, and that was in New York and LA. The meritocracy culture was like so different. In the first year after graduation, I got assigned as project lead, and I was like flying out to different places on my own, implementing the software like at the client site, right? That doesn't happen in Japan. Like no matter how good you are, it just doesn't happen. But I was able to do that because the people there were like, okay, you're good. You understand what you're doing. You learn so fast enough. Like, go ahead and do it. I was talking to my Japanese friends, and they were like all doing the first 2 years. It's like, basically bitch work.
Right. Yeah, that's how it is.
Yeah.
And I think that sense of entrusted autonomy it just empowers you so much as a junior.
Right.
And it fundamentally unlocks how you think.
Yeah.
And I think that learning that mindset is invaluable, even if you decide to go back to Japan long term. This is kind of an interesting segue into the second point, where to optimize your efforts to stay in the US, you can actually hack the Boston Career Forum. But back in the day, like one of the reasons why I really felt like I wanted to do an internship at Bain in Tokyo was because they were the only firm that was doing junior summer internships. And I knew that I had to have an unfair advantage to be able to get full-time interviews in the US. And so this was like my wedge of creating an unfair advantage. That, hey, look, I worked at Bain for 2 months now, and I'm vetted, and I've already done a case. Why wouldn't you interview me? The thing about BCF, and as you know, is like the competition of getting an offer at these places through BCF is way easier than if you're a domestic student in Japan trying to recruit in, or if you're in the US trying to recruit directly for these positions.
Yeah, the sheer number of competition is so much lower, right?
Yeah.
It's like 100 maybe, possibly.
Yeah. And like, I think this is kind of a semi-known fact though, because I've seen like people do kokan ryugaku just to like attend BCF from like all over the world, or just fly into the program. Like, so
I've had a doki who got in through BCF.
So
Who did the kokan
yeah. Yeah.
This is such a cheat code.
Yeah, most people like they're like they think like, yeah, you know, like it's far away and I don't know if I should do this. You should.
Yeah.
Yes, people usually think of it as like a way to get good jobs in Japan, but I think that more people should be looking at it as a hack to land a full-time offer in the US as well.
See, that I didn't have.
It's not just a hack. It's like, it's such a privilege to be able to do one of these internships and to experience the vibe and the work you do and like the people. And, you know, the conclusion might be that you actually like it and you want to be there, right? Yeah. And Boston Career Forum is such an amazing way to figure out these things. It's something you can do if you're studying abroad. And I think Japanese people like, you know, kind of take it for granted, but this thing doesn't exist for any other country in the world, right? It's such a unique thing that I just think it's a wonderful institution that more people should take advantage of. And like, that's actually how we met, right? At Boskari.
Yeah. I mean, without Boskari, this wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, exactly. You know, you could meet your YouTube co-host at Boskari. So you just go and network too. So this has always blown my mind a little bit. 82% of you that listen regularly on this show haven't yet subscribed to the show. So could we ask you for a small favor before we continue? If you like the show and you like what we do here and you want to support us, the free, simple way that you can do just that is by hitting the subscribe button. Our commitment to you is that if you do that, then we'll do everything in our power to make sure that this show gets better for you every single week. We'll listen to your feedback, we'll find the guests that you want us to talk to, and we'll continue to do what we do. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The third hack is to join a fraternity.
A fraternity.
Yeah, be a bro.
or a sorority sister. We have 4% of female viewers.
Gotta be mindful.
So a frat is like, just to give a quick background, it's like a group of bros that have been carefully selected by senior bros, right?
Basically,
you know, they like interview you and then like, you know, you hang out with them a little bit to see if you're like fit the vibe of the frat. And then this frat kind of becomes a strong community that you hang out with. And its closest comparable is like a sakura in Japan, but more exclusive and more bro-y.
Yeah. The benefit of joining a frat is that you really make friends with English native, born and raised, like very bro-y, like American friends. Yeah. And that's like a huge benefit if you're trying to like live in the US, work in the US. One, you actually get to practice your English if it's not good enough. Two, you actually get to understand all the tricks and tips of the social life and also like professional life, and you actually get to have a good time.
Yeah.
Like,
it's really fun.
Yeah, right? It's really fun. Yeah. So I was the first like international Asian student like to join that frat like ever.
Wow.
Yeah, but it was super fun. Like actually, you know, made great friends. My English increased dramatically because I was surrounded by those people. It forces you to speak only English at a native level.
Yeah.
And that it's hard at the beginning. But your English proficiency is so important to enjoy life in the US.
Yeah.
And this is one of the hacks to really elevate your English level.
Yeah, and it's such an underrated thing. A lot of smart students actually end up not rushing for a frat because they're like, oh, it's so much time commitment and like, you know, I need to get good grades and stuff. Yeah, but you gotta fit in first, right? Like nobody wants like that Asian nerd in their company working with them. Like they don't pass the airport test.
Right.
So that is actually the soft skill learning is such a big unlock by joining a frat. And I joined a business frat where there's a fraternity for business-minded people. Mine was called a DSP, Delta Sigma Pi. And I joined the frat because I was returning from my military service and I was like 24 years old or something. And I was like old, right? I am going to have to hang out with my other old fellow Korean dudes. And that sounded miserable. So rushing the frat as a 24-year-old was my way of forcing people to become friends with me. And once I joined, the pledging process is also very different from social frats. It's like you have to do a coffee chat with every single one of the brothers. You have to write thank you emails to all of them. You have to refresh your resume. And I think you get like a mock, like a mini case interview during the rush process at the very end.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's really weird.
It's weird.
Yeah, it's like, sell me this pen.
Yeah.
That's not even a case interview, but they do it anyway.
Or I'll just chug this beer.
Yeah, it's super nerdy, but and then you have like what Japanese people call OB, right? The alumni of the chapter, they all pull us during the recruiting process as well, and like there are archives of how to break into these firms, like information about each offices. It's a treasure trove, and it's such an unfair advantage. So like I think the frat was the second layer of the unfair advantage that I was layering on top of my internships and other stuff.
Yeah.
See, but I guess the next natural thing though is the segue from the frat angle is that to get into a frat, I think you kind of have to be cool in some way.
Yeah.
And that's actually really important in establishing yourself in the US. I realized that when I first went, I had a hard time becoming relevant in the cool circles on campus. Everyone's wedge is a little different of this, but I decided that I wanted to be cool in the sense that I wanted to lean into my military background or like my story about what I wanted to do in life and the level of ambition I had. And so people kind of appreciated that, and I became that guy. Of like a diplomat's son, ex-military, wanting to, do infra projects in North Korea. It was like very kind of nerdy and business school like, but they appreciated it. So that kind of aura is something you have to intentionally think about, the brand you want to have on campus. Otherwise, you won't be able to join any of these cool things.
Being cool could be in different ways of cool, but some kind of cool, you have to figure out your own branding in the US. Because a lot of things that you learn, a lot of opportunity, a lot of events, a lot of things happening, you kind of have to get invited to, right?
Right.
And for that, you kind of have to be cool enough that to be like, yeah, let's invite that guy.
Yeah.
Like if you're uncool, they'll be like, skip, and then you don't get to go, and you miss an opportunity, you miss on the network. It's like a foot in the door thing. You have to be a certain level of coolness above.
Right.
Otherwise, you miss everything that's happening up there. I think for me, it was a very different angle because, as I said, like I went to a 2% Asian school. It was like a Catholic school, so very predominantly white, right?
Yeah.
I was one of the 2 Japanese students in my school. So I kind of embraced the cool Japanese kid vibe, like fashion and like the coolness and the culture and da. I also like intentionally went to all the very predominantly white things. Like the frat was one of the things. So I was such a rare like character where like no one has ever really talked to like a local Japanese kid who speaks like good enough English and hanging out with them. So like they learned some things from me, like they're curious, and that was my angle. And then that eventually kind of got me to like more mainstream stuff. You just have to play the right game with what you have. Because I'm bigger now, but I was like much smaller back then.
Oh, you were pretty skinny when I met you.
Yeah. When I graduated high school, I think I was like 60 kilo maybe. I'm like 80 now.
Holy.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, with some fat.
I guess one side tip is like, go to the gym.
Very early on, from day like earlier than optimizing for the US, like go to the gym.
Yeah, and like the thing is like the joining a frat, I guess like these things, these activities, and actually being a member, being a brother, actually elevates your cool status. Right?
Yeah.
You unlock it. This is like a badge that you've earned.
Yeah. And the 5th hack is always a backdoor. What I mean by this is that I think when you're coming from Asia, Japan, or Korea, there are rules, and rules are meant to be followed. If someone says this is a way to do it, you follow it and you do it that way, right?
Correct.
But in the US, if you actually want to get what you want, you got to find a way to make it happen, because following the rule doesn't really get you there.
Yeah.
So one episode of this backdoor thing is in my master's in finance program that I joined, MBA had a consulting club that they have all the past case histories, like examples, like coaching time, whatnot. My master's in finance did not have access to any of that. It was run by the same school, like the faculty was like overlapping and all that.
Yeah.
But because our program was kind of new and it never was part of the MBA program, we just weren't given the, even the casebook. They didn't give it to us, like to the program. And I wanted to go get in consulting, so I really wanted all the, material and like resources. So I actually had to create my own Masters in Finance chapter of that consulting club.
Yeah.
And like made it, and then it was like me and then one other guy. Yeah. But like I kind of went like, negotiate with the MBA faculty. Like we got people, like we're in the same program. You kind of have to give it to me. And then eventually they gave us access to like some of not all of it still. Right. But I got all the cases. But yeah, like it's like if I just had listened to like we don't give it to you, you can't do it, like we don't support that, then that my consulting whole thing would have just ended there. There's a lot of these situations in the US where if you push for it and kind of go around different ways, you can get what you want. And then that you should definitely pursue and consider and not just give up with the first no you get.
That's a really important thing about living in the US. I think another way to frame it is like, it's easier to ask for forgiveness than for permission. And in the US, everything is allowed except for the stuff that's banned, right? Yeah. Whereas I think in Asia, it's only the allowed things are allowed, right? It's like everything else is like by default banned. And you have to have that mentality shift, especially because you're playing a game that's 10 times harder than your friends. You do need to be really creative in getting what you want.
Right.
Because look, it's you've got a harder game and you have to have a differentiated strategy. We're not like 10 times smarter. We're not actually 10 times smarter than your friends. And I think that leads nicely into our sixth hack, making your US experience successful, is you got to throw away some of your Asian values. If you have the same operating principles that you were raised with in this country, you are just set up for failure, right? Including the stuff like always looking for different ways of getting things done. Because values like humility, being self-aware, respect for the elder, or like all that stuff, I think in the US, the smartest people are assertive and proactive and confident that if you don't have that, you don't get associated with those people, right? And you thereby lose respect. One of the things that really struck me when I was talking about topics of entrepreneurship, for example, with my American friends in college or at work, you're considered a loser if your goal is not world domination, right? Like, yes, in Asia too, like you have founders who are like, I'm going to be like a decacorn or whatever, but like, it's different. Like that's kind of just like a statement. In the US, that's like by the default, right? And if you don't have that mindset, if you don't embrace that like bravado, you are self-limiting yourself.
Kind of going back to like, you have to fight against the local Americans for jobs if you're trying to stay in the US, is that, you know how like American people, if they speak a word of Japanese, they can say that I can speak Japanese.
Konnichiwa.
Yeah. I speak Japanese. Arigato. Right? I mean, that's great. That's great confidence. But Japanese people, unless they speak close to native, they won't say I can speak English, right? Even they can speak semi-fluently.
Yeah.
But if you're applying for a job and then you get asked like, hey, what can you do? And if you're so modest about like, you can do everything except for create a macro in Excel. I'm saying I can do a little bit of Excel. Like they're going to take it at face value. You can only do a little bit of Excel, right? Not like you can build anything like DCF in like 30 minutes, but like just not a macro, right?
In fact, they're going to discount it because they're used to Americans just like puffing up their resume.
Exactly.
So they're going to assume that you actually know nothing.
Yeah, no, exactly. So the modesty just like backfires on you if you don't fight the same way that they do.
Yeah.
When it comes to professional world in the US, you got to throw away those. Otherwise, you won't survive.
Where the real unlock comes in is you throw away the wrong stuff and then you keep the right stuff that makes you differentiated. It's like, I think Asians have a different sense of work ethic and dedication and commitment and professionalism than your counterparts. So if you kind of blend in the best of the East and the West, that's when you become, 10 times better than your friends.
Yeah. And last but not least,
the
seventh hack is to make a English native girlfriend.
This is important.
Or a boyfriend.
Or a boyfriend, yes.
This is like a personal story. My ex I dated from my sophomore year. The amount of feedback frequency you get by dating a native English speaker is like crazy. But once you have a girlfriend, like the frequency of chit-chatting just increases so much. And then like the feedback cycle is so much faster, right? Like, that was such an accelerator for me in my English skill that without her, I would not have been able to speak or improve my English at the rate I did.
The sheer amount of exposure is different. And I think a lot of the points that we talked about today, it all has kind of a flywheel effect.
Yeah.
Where, like, for example, I think my dating game when I came back to campus, after I had my story and my military experience, and then I got into DSP and I became that DSP frat, business frat bro. And then, that allowed me to become, more of a catch on campus to like basically, American girls.
One of the cool kids.
One of the cool kids, right? Like I was one of the cool kids. And then like, now that I have like an American girlfriend, like that also elevates my status a bit more. Like I'm one of them truly. I think all the benefits that you can get from the other stuff we talked about can be earned one way or the other. But I think having a significant other in that country opens a very unique aperture into the way of life. For example, you get invited to Thanksgiving dinners. You get to learn about how American families work. And this is not an angle that your frat bro is going to teach you, right? Like, what does Christmas mean? And how does an American household Christmas look like? You can't experience this unless you're invited to their house.
Right.
It's different when you talk about Christmas or the Super Bowl or Thanksgiving with your colleagues once you've experienced it versus secondhand. It's not just a language thing, but just a cultural immersion thing.
Yeah, no, like the deep immersion.
Yeah, deep immersion. No pun intended. Today we talked about the 7 hacks to make the most out of your US college experience, but we have other content like the episode where we talk about how TOEIC 900 points is not enough to be successful at an MBB setting even in Japan. So dial in for more. We're going to be covering more content like this in the weeks to come. So stay tuned.
See you later.